What great mysteries with video evidence remain unexplained? Story 1. The lights in Norway's Hessdalen. The first sighting was in 1981, and a permanent observatory was built in 1998. The lights are still a mystery, but they are happening less often. One time I went to a fair with my brother or dad's girlfriend. We observed lights in the sky that looked just like these. We thought they would go away within a second, but they stayed in the sky. We saw that everyone was stopping on the side of the road and getting out to look, so we did the same thing. We kept looking at it, and then all of a sudden there was a loud boom and the lights went out. We stuck around to see if anything else happened, but nothing did. We went to the fair, then returned home and watched the news and everything else to try to find out what it was. But we could never figure it out. Story 2. The 1987 Max Headroom broadcast break-in. No one has ever caught the folks involved. A Redditor said a few years back that they knew who done it. I admire that they didn't do this to send a message, like Captain Midnight did. They don't even know how they got control of the transmissions. They know how they could have done it, but they would have needed very strong tools. This operation was properly thought out, but it was employed for no reason. That's good. Instead than having to think about a message, it merely makes you remark, "What the hell was that?" We need that sometimes. Story 3. Lightning that looks like a ball. There is no way to explain it, yet it's the coolest natural thing that has ever happened. I know there are a lot of liars on the internet and Reddit, but 10 years ago when I was in college in Colorado Springs, a few friends and I hiked up near Goal Camp Road late at night. I don't know if what we witnessed was ball lightning, but that video is the most like what flew through the hills that night. It wasn't very close to us, and I'm sure it would make a lot of noise. It was also pretty windy, but damn it. I guess this provides me a choice about what it was. What a great story. Ball lightning is one of those strange things that is both scientific and mysterious. People have been talking about it for hundreds of years, but we still don't have a clear, agreed upon explanation for it. Some physicists say it's plasma held together by electromagnetic fields. Some think it's chemical reactions in the air, and some even ponder about strange quantum events. Story 4. Number stations. They're quite strange and interesting, especially the ones who have been sending out bizarre things nonstop for decades. Some people think it's espionage networks, but no one can say for sure what they mean. I remember a year or two ago when the buzzing on UBV 76 ceased all of a sudden. Someone on 4chan's/X board saw it, and everyone, including me, went crazy. It was the strangest event that ever happened. Hundreds of us weirdos turned on right away and listened for 3 days nonstop. We were all sitting there like idiots for perhaps an hour after the buzzing stopped, listening to what we believed was white noise. Then we heard a door open. Then there were footsteps in the distance. At that point, everyone understood that the buzzer wasn't the item sending the sound. Instead, there was a microphone in front of the buzzer that had to be on all the time. Everyone went crazy. This wasn't just a strange object anymore, it was now a strange location. I left the station at work, went home, and listened to it over and again for 2 or 3 days. I was at work when a recording of Swan Lake started playing out of nowhere, and I almost crapped myself. It lasted about a minute before stopping. Then there was some rustling, both of papers and my jimmies, some footsteps that were hard to hear, and then just random thuds and other noises for a time. A few days after it stopped, the buzzing just flared up again. You could just barely hear what sounded like a door closing around 20 minutes after the buzzing started again. I'm sure there are still YouTube footage of this happening. People were posting all kinds of strange things to attempt to figure out what was going on. Story 5. There is proof in both film and science. Hessdalen Project. In the summer of 1983, Project Hessdalen was started. A field study took place from January 21st to February 26, 1984. During the field experiment, 53 light observations were made. The technical report has all the information you need. In the winter of 1985, there was another field inquiry. But throughout the time while the instruments were there, nothing strange happened. People are still seeing lights in the Hessdalen Valley, but they only happen approximately 20 times a year now. In Hessdalen, an automatic measurement station was built in August 1998. You may see both data and warning photos on this page. We might learn more about our reality by learning about the Hessdalen phenomenon. We will better grasp the effects of how we treat the natural world if we learn more about it. We know that light phenomena give off a lot of light energy. Can looking into the Hessdalen phenomenon help us find a new source of renewable energy? What is a mystery today may be technology tomorrow. It will be easier for people to share their own observations if scientists can prove that the phenomenon is real. Being more honest about the occurrences and other unknown phenomena will make it easier to perform real investigation on all oddities. Hopefully, learning about these strange things and knowing they exist will help people appreciate how fragile the balance of the natural world is. Story 6. The Lights of Brown Mountain. There are a lot of home movies of the lights, and this is one of them. I have seen them a few times personally. I lived and worked in Linville Gorge, which is the valley between Table Rock and the vantage point where the man is filming from, for a summer. I've always spotted the lights a few miles past Table Rock on Brown Mountain, but they have also been seen on Table Rock along the gorge and as far south as the east side of Short Off Mountain. Story 7. The Fermi Paradox. It drives me crazy. There have also been a lot of UFO sightings. I think a lot of them are BS or can be explained in a logical way, but I think some are, well, I can't explain it. Think about what it might be like if intelligent life evolved in a solar system 100,000 light years away from us. They learned how to control electromagnetic radiation and somehow worked out how our method of transmission, radio waves, works, and how to make a diaphragm shake using amplitude modulation to make sound. They find out that they can decipher the signals we send into space just in time to hear the first radio broadcast from Earth. They're all excited and listen to what we have to say on a lot of various channels for maybe 200 years. They also send out their own signal toward us to let us know they are there, even though they know it will take 100,000 years to get to us. And then, all of a sudden, the radio waves stop. There is no more transmission. They have seen the demise of human civilization. Those radio waves will come, but people will have been dead for a long time. Story 8. I haven't heard anyone talk about HARP yet. My favorite mystery right now is the one that has to do with the government and strange things that can't be explained. HARPy is a weird government antenna array that is linked to some really frightening things that happen in the atmosphere. The first video shows a house shaking like an earthquake, which is something I know well because I reside in Florida. I reside near the location seen at the start of the newscast and went through something similar. It was at 5 a.m. when my roommate, my girlfriend, who's also from California and thought it was an earthquake, and I all woke up. We lived close to an airport, so some noise wasn't unusual, but this, this was much stronger. The whole home was shaking a lot. I ran outdoors in my underwear, and I wasn't the only one out there. I looked about and then up to the sky. There was a big flame in the sky. My girlfriend was just about to go outside when I yelled, "It's a spaceship!" What I meant to say was the space shuttle, but it scared the crap out of her. Honestly, I was scared for a minute or two too, but in the end, there was a reasonable reason for it. The whole central east coast of Florida can experience the effects of a space shuttle launch and re-entry, but that was the first and last time I had seen or heard anything like that. Story 9. The Patterson-Gimlin video of Bigfoot in Bluff Creek, California is still real, even though numerous frauds tried to say they made it. Remember that at that time, the best ape suit in the world would have been in Hollywood because no one person could have paid for anything greater to be constructed. The suits that were utilized to film Planet of the Apes, to be exact. And we know that they are not even close to being as good as what we witness in this film. Sure, the Patterson-Gimlin film is one of those cultural touchstones where mystery, mythology, and doubt all come together. The context is what makes it so interesting, just like you said. It was filmed in 1967 when digital fakes, CGI, or even high-quality independent practical effects were common. The best ape suits at the time, such in Planet of the Apes, looked great on screen, but they relied a lot on close-ups, cosmetics, and editing methods. None of them successfully showed full-body natural movement in bright sunlight like the Bluff Creek clip does. Story 10. The Treasure Pit on Oak Island. There are layers of oak boards, stone, soil, and other things like coconut fibers. flood tunnels that fill the pit with water as it is dug up, stones that came from Egypt and are now in a hole in New England. The more you look into it, the stranger it gets. Because it is always filled with water and contains engineered blocks, it is so hard to dig into that it has never been fully investigated because of the high cost of doing so. A few years ago, I became quite interested in this subject and conducted a lot of study on it. The premise is founded on weak evidence that got stronger over time. Three young boys who uncovered a pit and what they said were planks and coconut shells were the first people to say they saw something. A whole generation later, after all the physical proof of this was gone, the boys' story gained traction and the digging resumed in earnest. Someone said they found some gold, but that tangible proof is long gone, or it might have been placed in the first place. Natural geological processes can explain the flooding. No real tunnels have been found. They have now dug down almost definitely deeper than pirates or anybody could have with basic instruments. Also, if you want to bury your treasure, you want to keep it hidden, but not make it impossible to get to. Story 11. How does Dark Side of the Moon fit so well with The Wizard of Oz? Use the last chapter of 2001, A Space Odyssey with Echoes. It has a little more value than The Dark Side, which, in my experience, seems to need marijuana to sync up. There are rumors that Stanley Kubrick asked Pink Floyd to write the music for part of the movie. They rejected it down since they had bad experiences dealing with film directors in the past. They immediately regretted their choice after watching the movie. So, they wrote Echoes to be the music for the last chapter of Space Odyssey, Jupiter, and Beyond the Infinite. I have done it a few times. It's very amazing. Story 12. A 2011 HBO documentary called There's Something Wrong with Aunt Diane talks about a crash on the Taconic State Parkway in 2009. Think back to the article that the mother of several of the kids who died in that crash wrote. Aunt Diane's husband went wild with grief and declared that his wife had never drunk or used drugs. He then let the title of this documentary come from the last words of one of the small children, who uttered them to her mother on the phone just before it happened. The aunt was certainly drunk and high when she crashed. Her husband just won't believe it. Story 14. I can't find the video. But there was a doctor who was out in the woods with his dog. He heard his dog barking and went to see what was going on. When he caught up with the dog, he observed an extraterrestrial waving it over his head like it was weightless. The alien flung the dog and right away it transformed into powder. The man lost it and whacked the alien over the head with a big piece of wood, knocking it out. The man was surprised, but he was able to get his camera. This is where the video recording really starts. You can see the alien lying on the floor and hear the man crying in the video. The man tapes what seems like a board, like the Silver Surfer, that is floating in the air. After that, the man wraps the alien up and puts it in his freezer. He then does an autopsy and writes out what he finds. The footage shows the extraterrestrial waking up and blinking a few times. About 3 days later, men, I guess from the government, come to his house and remove everything he has. The alien, his ID, and his stuff. He's presently hiding out in Mexico. I don't know if it's true, but it scared the snot out of me. The movie covers everything, and I'm very sure I forgot a lot of things. The video was nice though. It would be amazing if anyone who has watched the video could upload the link. Story 15. I really hope this doesn't get lost. The UFO sightings that have been reported in Turkey. I only saw a little bit of the video and haven't done any investigation outside of this, but is there any evidence that this thing is truly in the sky? It starts with a dark background with no stars, then a blue background with no clouds. Are there any images from farther away that show the landscape or anything else that makes it look like this isn't just a video created in someone's garage? The video isn't from 1993 like most of the other things in this post. It's only from 5 years ago, but it still seems like it was filmed on a potato. Is there a better quality option? The Wikipedia page solely cites Sirius UFO Space Science Research Center, which doesn't seem to be a truly unbiased source that could make such strong claims since there isn't much information about them on Google. Story 16. Just to tempt you, think about this. The pyramids of Giza were built almost 2,000 years ago. The movie interviews civil engineers along with other types of engineers. They even talk to the guy who built the Viaduc de Milo. Everyone agrees that they don't know how they built these pyramids. To put it simply, the guy who built the greatest bridge in the world wouldn't know how to create a pyramid like the one in Giza. They have unearthed some weird things around the pyramid in Giza. Also, in my opinion, the strangest thing is that they found the same building design in Giza, on the eastern island, in Peru at Machu Picchu, in Mexico with the Mayan temple and other old building sites. This might be a spoiler since it's kind of the big reveal of this well-made and relatively believable documentary because of the qualifications of the experts they interview. When you place all these landmarks on a world map like Google Earth, they all line up. They also figured out the number pi, the number phi, the gold number, and how to convert between other measurement systems, such the metric system, which was made up in the 1700s. The video is in French and doesn't have any subtitles. There is a video with English spoken, although the people who made it say that it doesn't really stay true to the original French. I discovered a little clip in English, but not the whole video. This comment will be lost, so who cares? Story 17. This may not be exactly what you're looking for, but people are still arguing about what happened around Ayrton Senna's death. There is a lot of video of his crash and a lot of evidence from the car, but no one can say for sure what happened. Also, he wasn't declared dead until he was in an ambulance so that the GP didn't have to be canceled. That's a strong example. Senna's death in Imola in 1994 is one of those times when sports, tragedy, and mystery all come together. You're right. The crash was shown from several perspectives, and the car was looked at in great detail. But even after all these years, there is still no clear agreement on what exactly went wrong. Some people believe it was a change to the steering column, while others blame the tire pressure or the track conditions. And then there's the human factor. Senna pushed the car to its maximum. Story 18, The Money Pit on Oak Island. I think the Ancient Aliens show has some little video of this. A lot of people have tried and failed to find out what's at the bottom of the shaft. I assume John Wayne even put some money into digging at one time. People have killed trying to find out what's below there. When they try to dig deeper, the shaft overflows because there are tunnels that link to several different spots on the island's coast. This has always interested me. Story 19. Because I want more people to see it, I posted it again in this topic. This crash, whatever it is one of the most confusing things I've ever seen on the internet. I can't exactly figure out what it is, but it looks like it's trying to climb out of its fall just before it hits the ground for the first time. Also, as the things in the front travel past at a certain speed, the object itself must be going very fast. It's strange, but I didn't see anything in the clip that I felt was strange. A low AOA collision, a bounce, and a final impact. We don't know what the object is, but the video quality is too bad to say much about it. An investigation on site would have shown whether it was produced by people or came from space. A meteor. Story 20. If you have a lot of strange things and someone gives you an explanation that you agree with, the trove loses one item. One step closer to an empty trove, which is nothing. That makes them feel a little protective. Another factor is that if anything is too predictable, you won't want it in your hoard because it's boring and lowers the degree of interest. People will also overlook your findings if they see something that is too startling, because they will think that it couldn't possibly happen. Story 21. What about the History Channel with its silly mermaid video? The part that doesn't make sense is how they think anyone will believe this crap or take them seriously again. You know how they say in the beginning that it's a science fiction-based mockumentary? It's fake, but it's meant to be fake. They do connect real science and history by looking into the evolutionary history of both humans and dolphins, so sure, there is real science in it. My husband and I watched it, and I thought it was pretty good if you can get over the not-so-great CGI effects. Story 22, Megalithic constructions from long ago. Shows like Ancient Aliens make them sound more exciting than they really are, but the truth is that ancient people built huge constructions out of huge stones that they somehow chiseled, moved, and carefully lined up without steel or wheels. Many of them also line up with each other on a worldwide scale. Archaeologists don't really know how they did it, and while aliens is a funny idea, there is obviously something we don't understand about how they were able to achieve these things. Story 23. The French writer Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, who wrote The Little Prince and was a reconnaissance pilot during World War II, went missing. He left Corsica in 1944 on a reconnaissance trip and never came back. There was never any proof of what happened to him and his plane. In 1998, a French fisherman pulled up his net and found a silver bracelet with Saint-Exupéry's name on it. In 2004, a diver examined the region and recovered the wreckage of his jet, which had presumably been shot down by a German fighter after all. Story 24, Polybius, was the name of a computer game that was the subject of an urban legend and conspiracy theory. In 1981, a strange arcade machine showed up in Portland, Oregon, and it included never-before-seen gameplay. It was so interesting that it was hard to stop playing, but that's not all. A lot of people who played the game became sick or went crazy. Some versions of the myth say that it made people see things that weren't there and have nightmares, or that it made them kill themselves. Every version of the urban legend talked about strange men in black who would check on the game from time to time. This made some people think it was a government psyop to drive people crazy. It has been shown several times over the years that it did not exist, generally by pointing to a lack of contemporary media coverage or a FOIA request that discovered no records of such a video game. However, this did not satisfy people. Of course, if it really were a psyop, these channels would be empty. A retro gaming YouTuber and journalist named Ahoy, who is a god-tier YouTuber by the way, published a video about his findings. He not only showed that it was incorrect, but he also found the actual person, location, time, and reason for the rumor's creation. Story 25. Devil's Kettle Falls. A stream splits into two parts. One part flows regularly while the other part spirals down into a hole. People threw all kinds of stuff into the hole to try to find out where the water went. People said they saw ping pong balls, different colors of dye, and even an old automobile down there. Finally, someone had a smart idea. They measured the total amount of water flowing above and below the falls and found that they were similar enough to figure out that the two streams come back together rather rapidly. That one is a typical mystery hiding in plain sight. For years, Devil's Kettle Falls in Minnesota was almost like a myth. People thought it was a bottomless hole, a gateway, or that objects tossed in May pop up miles away. The fact that regular people were throwing in ping pong balls, dyes, and even the urban tale about a car demonstrates how deeply interested they were. Story 26. The last communication from the British South American Airways plane Stardust, which went missing in 1947, was Stendek. After a long search, they couldn't find any sign of the plane. For years, crazy people talked about conspiracy theories and aliens taking people. In 1998, mountain climbers on a remote peak uncovered an engine, pieces of metal, and clothes at the bottom of a glacier on the side of Mount Tupungato. The plane became stuck flying the wrong direction in the jet stream while it was flying at night and using a system to time when to start its descent. They were going slower than the Earth because they were in the jet stream, and they hit the edge of a mountain which was then covered by an avalanche. The wreckage took decades to slide down the mount with the glaciers. The glacier kept the wreck in such good condition that the salvage team was able to find identifying bodies, personal goods, and even read the serial numbers on the engines 50 years later. One of the landing gear tires was still inflated, which is amazing. Teams kept going to the site every now and again since more of the plane, luggage, and passengers' corpses were constantly coming out of the ice. Story 27. Another science mystery. In the 1800s, people who believed in evolution thought the Earth was several billion years old, which would have been necessary for the life forms we see today to have evolved. But Kelvin, the most famous physicist of the day, had used thermodynamics to figure out how old the Earth was by looking at how hot it was within. He said it was a lot younger. For a long time, this remained a mystery, and it was thought to be one of the biggest problems with the theory of evolution at the time. They didn't find the answer until the early 1900s. Radioactivity. The Earth is getting hotter because uranium and other radioactive elements are breaking down. This means that the cooling process takes longer than expected. The biologists were right all along, But who is sitting at the back of the lecture room when the scientists who discovered the discovery are about to discuss their findings? It's Kelvin. He's now an old guy, but he is still alive and has come to see their show. The thought of having to stand in front of the Lord of Physics and basically tell him why he was incorrect scared them to death. But they were really happy when he fell asleep right away. This is what I think about when I fall asleep in physics class. It happens to the best of us.